one of the most important aspects of health and wellness is nutrition. And today I have the privilege of having on the show a nutrition specialist. All right. Her name is Zuzu. I'm going to turn it over to Zuzu. Zuzu's going to introduce herself formally and she's going to jump right in. I'm really excited. Make sure you grab, pen and paper because I'm sure you're going to want to take notes and I'm sure that you're going to have some questions. And so feel free to, drop questions in the chat box below, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can, put it in the comments section on YouTube. But anyway, without further ado, I turn it over to Zuzu.
Thank you, Lance, so much. And welcome, everyone. If you're watching live, it's probably evening. If it's afternoon for you, whatever day, or the part of the day it is, welcome, welcome. And I'm gonna share my screen. So we're gonna go to my presentation. And today's topic, it's called, or I named it, What's on Your Plate, Lance, because we're gonna actually use Lance as our study subject. So hopefully Lance doesn't mind.
No.
All right, so we're gonna have like some, a specific example, but we're also gonna dive into a little bit of theories just to understand what's going on in our nutrition. But first thing first, I have a little disclaimer to say. This seminar is only for educational and informational purposes, and I'm not a medical doctor or certified, nor even certified dietitian. So this information I provide here is based on my personal experience, my studies of nutrition coaching and others, and my experience as a nutrition response testing master practitioner. And any recommendations I may make about the training or nutrition or even supplements or even lifestyle or information provided to you today should be discussed between you and your doctor. And definitely in this information does not take place of a professional medical advice. So discuss that with your doctors. Any product or food recommendations is not intended to diagnose, not treat, no cure, or prevent any disease. And all the statements and information presented here have not necessarily been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. And neither Lance or I are affiliated with any of the products or foods actually mentioned here in this today presentation. So first things first, my name is Zuzana Branakova-Kennedy. People know me as Zuzu, mostly from my previous times as a Zumba instructor, but actually I'm a scientist, originally from the Molecular Biology and Biochemistry, but recently, because mostly of my health status and trying to change my own health, I became a nutrition response testing practitioner on the master clinician level. I also finished some courses and became a functional blood work specialist. I'm a nutrition coach, of course. I also stayed active as a Zumba instructor, and my company is called Zuzu Fit, Health, Wellness, and Fitness, and I'm a big health enthusiast. The host of today's and also the case study for today's presentation is our Lance Smith. So maybe you know him already, but he has many sides of his entrepreneurship. He's a financial educator, keynote speaker, author, dance fitness instructor, real estate investor, and he probably gonna have like too many other things to do, but his company is called Clay Smile Entertainment. And he, as you noticed, he is a huge health enthusiast. So why we created this presentation? So when we talked with Lance, I meant like with our conversation, I said like the logging of the food is important, and he basically just jumped on it. It's like, oh, let's create something and let's see what we get out of it. So for his goal for this presentation is basically to optimize his own health by making adjustments based on my recommendations. But because I don't want to keep it only about Lance, I want to basically give everybody some kind of recommendation that you can take a little bits of pieces and go with it and change your life. So what is nutrition? Let's, instead of just looking like what we have on a plate, let's define it. So from the when you Google it or look up the dictionary, the first thing that you find is that the nutrition is described as the process of providing or obtaining the food necessary for health and the growth. It's food or nourishment, and from Merriam-Webster dictionary, it's described as the act or process of nourishing or being nourished. So the nourishing or the necessary food is really an important part in this word, because we recently kind of don't, or we forget, we don't pay attention what it actually means and what we really have on the plate. I like this quote from Dr. Carl Nadolski, who is endocrinologist and weight specialist in a Holland hospital, who said, "We live in an obesogenic environment that's filled with cheap, highly palatable, energy-dense foods that many times make overeating calories easy, often unconsciously, and countless conveniences that reduce our physical activity." I absolutely love this quote because it specifies our modern lifestyle, where we have a convenience of all the technology and we forget to move, and we also sometimes forget to cook or basically have a good meal, and everything is on the go, on the rush. So maybe let's take this as a reminder what nutrition really is important about. So good nutrition improves our well-being. Like if we have poor diet, it will basically end up in the poor physical and mental health eventually. Even if it's like more like a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? It doesn't behave like from one day to another. So our bodies are able to adapt for a very long time. It's definitely expensive eventually to be unhealthy, right? So maybe invest into your health now to prevent, your expenses later, to paying for the doctors for all kinds of diseases that are connected to improper diet, or actually nutrition. I like that word better. It helps us to manage a healthy weight. Of course, who wouldn't want to be in their optimal weight and lean and looking good? And it supports and boosts our immune system. That's very important. It maintains everything, basically what goes in our body, because we're supporting our innate system to also heal if we give our body all the building blocks that it can actually work correctly and balanced. It delays all the effects of aging and longevity, so we can live longer and happily. Life gives us another energy. Basically, it fuels our days. It reduces the risk of chronic diseases. As I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It positively affects our mood, right? If we eat something that didn't sit well, our mood not good. We highly, many times we cannot even hide it. So that's how strong it actually affects our moods. It increases focus or decreases, like if you don't eat correctly, and also prevents all the diseases and digestive and bone health. So these are just like top 10 positive sides of the nutrition, but they're very important. So how do we look when we created this topic? I needed to think about it for a little bit, like how we're going to present it and how we're going to basically evaluate what really Lens eats. So there are a few tools and there are a few things that nutritionists mostly use, and that's tracking what it's on your plate. We can do it just writing something down, logging it in your notebook, or you can use some other applications, or you can use intuitive eating. But logging it down, writing it down is very important, because many times we just think it was fine and you don't even realize how much stuff was hidden in our food, or we ate unintentionally or unconsciously more than we actually planned on. So one of the ways, or the most common ways, are counting calories, counting macros, or checking your portions, or even the intuitive eating And guess what? They all work. But the question is, which one is the best for you? So everybody's different. Somebody, likes numbers, somebody's more intuitive. So you have to choose what works best for you. But why is it important to know what's on our plate? It's because most people usually don't realize how much they are eating. And we are all guilty of it. Like, don't worry, like even people who study that, we all have faults. So there are two likely reasons why this happens. It's just because they don't realize how calorically dense many foods can be. And they might, you might have an overflowing plate that basically is like too much in calories, too much in energy that your body cannot really process, and it will store as a fat. So if you think that 2 slices of meat lovers pizza before bed is good, you might maybe think twice. Or a bag of chips, not always, right? So we not always, but we often misjudge also the portions. So about 2/3 of the time, actually, so it's pretty a lot. Without the handy reference point, it's easy just to accidentally consume much more than we intended. So there's a fix to it, right? So when we struggle how to recognize how many calories in our meals there are on our plate, we can start tracking. Food tracking is the fix, and it usually consists of 3 main types: calorie counting, macro counting, and hand portion tracking. Once you kind of know yourself, then you can move to intuitive eating, but I will not touch base about that in today's presentation. So what is calorie and macro counting? So the calorie counting is a set number of calories, so it means energy, that we eat every day based on our height, weight, age, activity level, and goals. That's very rough number, and it will not tell us everything what we need to know. So we definitely try to go hand in hand, calorie counting with macro counting, where we divide those calories in the 3 main macronutrients: proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. And don't worry, I will tell you more about those. So rather than just counting the calories, we will keep track. It can be either in grams or proportions of those micronutrients, like how much you eat per day. So why do we use this calorie and macro counting? Research shows it works. And don't worry, like you can get a copy of these slides, and I'm happy to provide you also the papers that they show that it really works. So just ask Lance or me, put it in the chat, or send us, message later and ask for the slides and for the research, and I'm happy to provide it. And don't forget to ask questions at any point. So also, the calorie and macro counting provides maximal precision. If you wait and you have a precise measurements of your food as well, and you learn how to basically how it works and how calorie counts. The thing is that this method works mostly short term, because we all sleep, right? The tracking calories for a couple of weeks is okay, it helps us, but when we slip into our normal eating habits, and and it just slips away, and then we stop tracking. So it's and it's also very laborious. So yeah, doesn't work for everybody. But people who actually have advanced needs, like the athletes, and have specific precise goals, and they try to reach a certain body fat percentage or so they need some kind of tracking, and that's definitely necessary for them. And of course, people who love numbers and statistics, they will definitely love tracking the calories and macros. But just to find out, does it work for you or not? I will show you another method where we're gonna basically use our hands as a portion sizes, and it's much easier. But I will show it to you towards the end of our presentation. So stay tuned with me. But again, like if any of these methods, like find you feel like you're distressed and confused and anxious, just don't use them. Okay. If it, of course, like they are all going to be taking some time. So if it feels like it's basically affecting your life and it's taking too much time, again, just consider another options. Um, so it depends what you try to, like how you try to achieve your goal, but choose wisely. There are many calorie and macro counting tools online available, or as an application or desktop applications. I only mentioned a few here, MyFitnessPal, because I'm going to use it for today's presentation. Chronometer is another one, Nutritionics. That one, I think both Chronometer and Nutritionics gives you options to basically communicate and share your stuff with your coach. There are other calorie counters. I only mentioned one here by Fat Secret. There are way too many. And I think even like some of your trackers, like the step trackers, like a Fitbit or fitness trackers, have their own food database that you can actually apply as well. So let's touch base with the macronutrients. Like many times you hear this term and you don't even know what it means. So the macronutrients, or many times people just say macros, that mean the same thing. So the macronutrients consist of three main categories: carbs, protein, and fats. So let's look at them individually. I'll start with the protein because I think that one is the most important one. And again, I like just dictionary. So let's see what the dictionary say. It's basically, yeah, the little scientific, right? Any class of nitrogenous organic compounds that have large molecules composed of one or more long chains of amino acids and are essential part of all the living organisms, especially as a structural components of body tissues such as muscle, hair, but also like internal like enzymes and other proteins, transporters, and so on. The many, and like even the antibodies. So even the immune system actually consists of the proteins. So, and the second definition was the food consisting largely of proteins and making up one of the main nutritional food groups, right? Proteins can be of the animal's origin or the plant's origin because we all consist of them. But again, the important part to remember, they are consisting of their little parts, their building blocks are the amino acids. So if you hear amino acids and the protein, they pretty much are in the same category and they are essential part of our life. So here I just try to give you some examples. What are the best protein sources? What are better protein sources, but probably not advised to be eaten as often? And then there is a category that should be eaten very sporadically and maybe even like left out if possible. So the best protein sources, of course, is meat. So you can see like most of the lean meat is mentioned here. What I love is also the broths. They can be meat broths, they can be even vegetable broths. Bone broth is a perfect source of the protein and amino acids actually. Eggs and egg whites are utilized highly and actually better than the meat itself in our bodies. But also any cultured dairy is great source of protein and actually supports our gut as well, which is very important for people who are vegetarians. Their main sources will probably come mostly from the vegetables and legumes, and probably like tempeh or tofu, while the tofu actually is not, it's like in the category that we shouldn't eat them every day. So watch out for something which basically have some addition which are processed and they have some additives. So we have to learn what actually is in those foods, but try to avoid any fried foods, high fat meats. Processed soy is actually not really good. Protein bars actually sporadically because they are kind of in the category of ultra processed foods, and they are usually, sometimes not usually, but some of them are loaded with sugar. Some of them are just basically loaded with extra additives and ultra processed stuff that not necessary for our life. So what are the carbohydrates? Many times you hear carbohydrates or the carbs. Lens, are there any questions? Can I go on?
Yeah, you can go on. Well, quick question, quick question. It's amazing. I mean, I'm learning a lot. I always thought protein bars were very healthy because, protein bars you see really promoted by like athletes and stuff, right? And bodybuilders and all that, right? And, at the gym. And so
Absolutely.
now let me ask you about in particular, there's something called Cliff Bars. Are you familiar with
Mhm.
Cliff Bars? Now,
I
are
am.
the same category or would that be different, the Cliff Bars?
Yes, they are in the same category. And actually, I believe like what I've seen from your food log, Cliff bars have even more sugar. So
Wow.
they're loaded with an extra sugar. Basically, that should give you also more like spurts of energy. So it's good, not not necessarily good for our health, but it might help you like if you take them before your workout and like basically gives you more energy that you need right at that moment. But eating them day by day or daily instead of your regular protein, I wouldn't suggest that.
Wow, good point. Now, another thing that was surprising was about what you mentioned about tofu, because I always thought that, eating tofu was very healthy. In fact, like I was thinking like tofu is a great substitution if you want to try to be more of a vegan or vegetarian. But what's the issue with tofu?
The tofu is the soy protein.
Mhm.
So basically the problem with this um, part of the food of the protein is usually just because of the processing and also of the sourcing. So most of the soy is like is basically GMO modified. So there are not the best sources of the plants for us because let's look at it this way, like if something is modified, the plant is modified to the point that none of the creature in in the environment, which I mean more like viruses and those little bacteria that they usually decompose these plants cannot touch it. How good is it for us? We will probably talk more about it in the next session when we talk about the gut health, but we have these helpers in our body that they actually digest everything what is pretty much plant related. We don't really have much of the enzymes as the humans, so we need these helpers to help us to get all those nutrients out of them. And as long as they are modified, there is really hard, they have a hard time to do it. So we actually don't get those nutrients and we are getting more metabolites that are not good and they cannot be processed by us or by those other little helpers for us. So that's usually the problem with it. Tofu, I mean, if you know it's like organic and it's sourced, um, non-GMO, it's probably okay. Tempeh is better because it's fermented. Tofu is not fermented. So
Okay.
those are the reasons for us. But again, like the studies and the life changes, so we might have different knowledge later on.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for those thank you for those answers. Yes. Okay. Perfect.
Absolutely. All right. So let's move to the next category, which are the carbohydrates or carbs for short. Again, like the description in the dictionary, which is a little scientific, is a definition, and it's a large group of organic compounds that include sugars, starches, and cellulose, which we normally know mostly as a fiber. It contains hydrogen and oxygen in the same ratio as water, but it's definitely not the water. And is used as a structural materials and energy as storage within the living tissues. I like for the humans, they're not completely necessary, but it's also debatable. Like the research is always struggling and they are fighting, like which if we not need the carbohydrates or not. But I feel like we are all individual and every single human basically digests different categories of these main macros differently. So some people need more carbs, some people don't. So these are broken down to release energy, and this is a quick energy release. So if you probably heard the term that you have a spikes in your blood, sugar. That's what this is happening. The carbs, basically, there are the simple sugars, are spiking our blood sugar really quickly. The other categories will not. The sugars are the type of carbohydrates, but not all the carbohydrates are the sugars. And I noticed that people sometimes interchange these terms, but they are not completely true. So the starches are more complex carbohydrates. So it's basically a chain of longer sugars, and they are preferable, like if you want to eat something carbohydrate wise, it's preferable to eat something which is longer chain and sort of like higher complex starches. So the best carb sources would be the whole grains. So there are a few examples here: amaranth, barley, buckwheat, any type of millet, oats, whole grain breads, maybe whole grain rice. Corn used to be good, right? But you can still probably find organic and non-GMO. Quinoa is a great, actually. Some of these actually will overlap in the categories. So the quinoa has also the protein. So for the vegetarians, it's a great source of protein and the good carbs. Legumes, the same thing, both sources. Potatoes, taro, yuca roots, those are all great sources of the good carbs. Greek yogurt or kefir, and fruits. Those fruits, but preferably fresh or frozen. What I didn't mention are the vegetables, and I will mention it on the next slide, so don't worry. What is still good, but maybe don't eat it every day, are basically any kind of white flour products. I probably didn't mention pasta anywhere, but again, like it's flour related. Hummus and couscous, because they actually have a higher portion of the fat. So again, I mentioned, as I said, some of these basically overlap within the categories. You can use the granola or instant or flavored oats if there are no sugar added. European version is called muesli. Oat-based granola bars, again, like try to find something which has like not that many compounds. Read the labels, like if there are not additives that you don't recognize, they're probably okay, but it's probably better to do something like make something at home. Pancakes, waffles, again, homemade cooked, so you know what it's in it. Milk is in the category here, but it probably has a protein as well, but it has lots of fat and carbohydrates as well. Vegetable juices and dry fruit, they should be basically eaten in moderation. What we try to basically advise against are the fruit juices, because they have lots of sugar that you basically consume without the fiber that is needed to basically remove it from the body without being processed right away. And of course, read the labels. Anything which contains more than 10 grams of sugar, any crackers, pretzels, they have all basically hidden carbohydrates, hidden sugars, and lots of basically those simple starches that they spike our blood sugar really quickly, and lots of that energy we're basically not burning, so it will be stored, and we don't want that. Any syrups, sodas, candies, and such products, we all know them. So what are actually really healthy carbs are vegetables. Lots of people debate that. Like people think that we don't really need vegetables. I personally am a fan of the vegetables. Not that I would eat them every day, but I do, because we want to feed our helpers again, like in our gut. So most of the time, some of these foods are not even for us, but we should have the intention to feed the whole body, and also basically our gut and our gut microbiome, and they really need it. So I'm not going to read all of them, but pretty much the principle is to eat, or what they call eat the rainbow. I'm not sure if everybody likes this title. The variety, diversity is the key. Go on, Lance. Do you have a question?
Yeah, no, this is really good. Question for you about the juice. When you mentioned about juice and the sugar content, would you say that a good strategy is to add water to juice so that it cuts down on the sugar content?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if you love juices, of course, like it's definitely better to dilute the juice. But I would basically think like how much juice will you get? Let's say like we were talking. Let's talk about the orange juice. Like from one orange, how much juice would you normally get? It's
Mm,
probably maybe 1/3 of cup if
mm,
it's like very very juicy. So that's a proportion of one fruit. um you might get a little bit of the pulp in there. If you're using the juicer, you will not get any pulp, which is the fiber. So again, these will spike your sugar, blood sugar really quickly, and we don't want that. So it's better to have them after your meal.
mm,
So if you eat like the good protein and good fat, this will basically slow down the absorption of the sugar itself. So yes, you can have it, but again, mindful like about the proportion, and also like how much you would probably eat. As like, you probably would eat only one orange. You wouldn't eat 10 or 20 oranges, in the whole bottle of the orange juice.
mhm. Excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move to the third major category, which is the fat or lipids or oils. So these are natural oily or greasy substances that occur in animal bodies. So we all should have it under our skin. They basically shouldn't appear around our organs, but they are. Um, and basically, the fats are the nutrients in the food that the body uses to build cell membranes, nerve tissues, including our brain, and the hormones. So it's actually really important. And why is it important to have certain amount of fat? Because the hormones and certain vitamins are only soluble in a fat. So if we are not eating any fat in with our food, we are not getting the important vitamins into our body, and our body also has to break something else down, to create these necessary building blocks for the membranes or like nerves and the brain. So just be mindful of that. Don't skip the fat. And again, the best fats actually come from good fish. Few examples: the salmon, anchovies, mackerel, herring, sardines, eggs. You saw them probably in most of the categories. There are really good sources of the protein and fat. I know this is debatable. Everybody says something else, but I am a huge believer of the butter,
Mm.
lard, or tallow. Butter not that much for cooking, but you probably use the ghee if somebody wants to cook on it, and like the butter flavor. That one is stripped of the milk protein, so they will not burn, and it basically will have higher burn, like the temperature of the burning. The cheeses in the best category would be the aged ones. So you will see that any hard cheeses are good, but wouldn't eat them every day because they are really high in the fat content that we actually kind of don't realize. The nuts are amazing sources of the fats, and nut butters. But the problem is that most of the nut butters are sweetened. So just find something which doesn't have a sugar. Seeds, again, they are huge sources of the good fats: flax, hemp, pumpkin, sesame seeds, even fresh coconut. Like someone we don't, if you like it, don't just drink it, maybe just eat it. Olives and olive oil should be the extra virgin oil. If you make the homemade pesto with the olive oil or avocado oil, those are great sources. If you like coconut milk, they would be, in the category of the good ones, but not the best ones. Cream dark chocolate is still here, so you can, enjoy it and indulge on it from time to time. Fish oils, of course, we don't want to like overdo all of these, but you might use them as like for cooking. Again, what to try to avoid or eat in a minimum is bacon and processed and spreading cheeses. Those are not really cheeses. There are so many foods with hidden sugars, so again, make sure that you know what's in it. Sausages and franks, Usually they also don't have the best sources of proteins. Then fats are really not of a good quality, so just be aware of it. Marinades, dressings, and dipping sauces, mostly having lots of hidden sugars and probably not having good oils, mostly the hydrogenated and trans fats, or something which is called vegetable oil, not a good quality. Shortenings and margarine should be avoided completely. All right, so I put water over here, and it's not a macronutrient, but it's completely necessary component of our life. So it's an inorganic compound, so it's not the same as the carbs, protein, or the fat, but it's called less transparent, odorless liquid that not only forms the seas, lakes, rivers, and it's a main constituent of the Earth hydrosphere, but it's also the basis of all the fluids of all known living organisms. So we need to pay attention to it. Like many times we forget to drink the water. And what I really think is important is also salt. So some people, are actually even doctors, will advise against the salt. I believe that salt is very needed, because otherwise we have, like, our bodies have a hard time to keep the balance inside, but it's inside of the cells and outside of the cells, and it creates more trouble in the long run. So it keeps us hydrated, even if people think that it basically retains water. It's actually not true. There is something else going on in the body. If bodies are retaining water, it's not really the salt issue. It balances the other electrolytes. It reduces the fluid retention, regulates the blood pressure, prevents the muscle cramps, improves the sleep. Because if you actually have the good salt, not a table salt, but something like a Himalayan salt or sea salt or black salt, those actually have minerals that relaxes the muscles, like the magnesium. So there are efficient levels of those minerals in these salts. It's great for the skin health, improves the digestion, and also nourishes the adrenal glands and the brain. So let's get to our case study and the main point of this presentation, and let's look. Was there any question before I jump onto this part?
Yeah, one question would be the margarine. Okay, so another thing that was shocking to me is that I always had thought that margarine was better than butter, but what's the situation?
A business. So it was basically created for business purposes. It actually is a side product of another production, basically the hydrogenated oils. Like, honestly, I will tell you the story right now. I lived in the college at the dorms, and our dorms were situated between the chocolate factory and the oil refinery, or I mean, not like, it was basically like a margarine and oil company that basically was doing all these food grade oils. And I can tell you, when they were producing all these oils and margarines, it was unbearable. Like, the smell was really, really, really not good. So we were looking forward to the days when we had a chocolate factory working, so we could smell the chocolate instead. Because really the processing, how they have to process these oils, is very chemically heavy. And so if you think about it, like how much chemistry they need to put into it, like how good is it? So no, I mean, like they say like it's heart healthy, but it's actually the opposite.
Wow.
So yeah, it was done for the business. It was definitely not done because of it's really true for the health. So yeah, we know now, but of course the money is still where the businesses. So I don't think they will listen like so fast unless we stop buying those products. So that's why the education is actually necessary. So definitely margarine and shortenings, you know, like if you make the cakes from those like fake shortenings, basically that's the same principle. It's not good. Our body doesn't know what to do with it. These fats are actually inflammatory. So if you have good fats, they are healing and slow down the metabolism, and they're helping, while these oils, or basically these solid oils, solid butters, are actually inflammatory because the body cannot process them. So it starts storing them, and trying to find out what to do.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Wow. Wow.
You're welcome. All right. So when I looked at the data that Lance sent me, actually, let's start with what I asked him to do. We did this little experiment where he logged the foods. He was sending me pictures and said what he was eating for about 4.5 days. And I asked him also how much water he was drinking and how many bowel movements and the composition of the bowel movements he had during those times. So I'm not gonna show you everything, but I made my suggestions and assumptions basically on all this data that I have. As I mentioned before, for this purpose of the presentation, I needed to use something to show you like what the composition on the plate and how much calories and macronutrients Lance is actually eating. So I used the MyFitnessPal and I entered all these foods, what he was eating into the MyFitnessPal. And I'm not gonna go into complete details, but you can see or you will see Lance loves his fruit and especially dry fruit during the day. But the composition of the foods, basically he eats about like 3,000 calories. And in this day, it was like 47% of the carbohydrates, 37% of the fat, and only 16% of the protein. And you can see basically the morning was mostly the carbohydrates. The lunch was pretty good, evened out. Salad from the kava with the falafel. I absolutely am fan of using, if people don't like eating vegetables, using these superfoods instead.
Mhm.
Because they definitely are great sources of the vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, antioxidants, even the fiber and probiotics and prebiotics. So, and actually they have some essential enzymes also as well. So if you don't like eating vegetables, definitely a good thing. Just look for the good healthy source of it. This was the second day, which if this is correct, Lance decided to go in the calorie deficit and he only ate about 1,300 calories per day. It was only one meal, which consisted of the salad with the tuna and some craisins. So there were vegetables actually eaten, lots of cashews, the bar with the peanut butter, and the mangoes. So the proportion similar as well. Again, like what I'm trying to point out here, like just look at the labels, like how much stuff actually is in these bars and how much sugar. So it's not enough just to put one type of sugar. You will find, I think there was like a rice flour, if I read it correctly. So that's a starch.
Mm.
Then there is a brown sugar. So that's already the third type of sugar. Syrup is another part of sugar. And then there are like some substances that we don't like to see, like the soy lecithin, and may contain the soy is not necessarily that it contains the soy or not. So sometimes, there are these hidden things. So even if the proportionally and carb wise, macronutrients wise, it doesn't look that bad, just read the label. What does it say? On the day 3, we are back to our 3,000 calories. So the day before, it was the calorie deficit and probably intermittent fasting, which is actually good for the body, because if you with prolonged times where you don't eat, you actually giving the body time to clean up and heal and do what it necessarily needs to do. So those things are good. If you like to be without the food, it's absolutely fine. Some people have hard time to do it, and we can help to basically minimize what's on their plate in a different way. So this is the day where the proportionally it looks very similar. He had actually more proteins, but they're coming basically mostly from the protein bars, and he had the chicken for the dinner as well. And I think I have one more day over here, which was much better. There was a lunch from Kava, chicken. So I think you cooked chicken to have like multiple days in a row, which is good. That's actually advisable. Your portion of vegetables and fruits for the day as well. And yeah, I know you asked about those juices, so you dilute them with the water, and that's great with some multigrain crackers or chips or how they're called. So if you look at the summary of all these logged foods, Lance eats about like 3,000 to 3,200 calories per day, which is great for his body and height. And I don't know if you know Lance, but I know him probably. How long has it been, Lance? Is it like 8, 9 years, or even 10 maybe?
Right, long time. Yeah.
A long time. So I don't think he changed a bit. So his body composition is pretty stable. So whatever he's doing, it's optimal for his body, not to change much of the weight. So, and again, like for this presentation, he only wanted to optimize his health. So we're not going to talk about the fat loss or muscle gain, but it's definitely advisable to probably increase a little bit of protein, and I will touch base on the next slide with it. But right now, so pretty much you eat about 120 to 150 grams of the protein per day, over 300 grams of the carbs per day. The fat is about similar to protein, and water intake is about 40 to 60 ounces. What I loved was that you actually go for the organic choices if you can. That's a really good habit. Mostly, you chose mostly whole foods. Fresh fruit are great sources of the good fresh minerals, and also the water. So preferably over the dried fruits. And you have that prebiotic and probiotic superfood instead of your veggies, but it's a really good source, especially for somebody who doesn't want to eat too much veggies or is on the go. So what I would suggest, like, I know like Lance's lifestyle is really busy, and if you're like that, like you probably might find some similarities with his plate, and that's what you do as well. But I would advise, no matter what, to eat or cook at home. So just to have fun with discovering new recipes, and maybe the meal preps, cooking for more days, like let's say over the weekend or something, is a great way to do it. For Lance, I would actually advise to increase the amount of protein. Preferably, I haven't seen any other meat besides the fried chicken. So I would like to see the variety, maybe eggs, maybe in a different type of meat, fish. I know that you had the tuna one day, so that was great. Maybe like different ones as well. Or, like if you're on the go, the broth is a good source of the protein as well, which has like really good sources of amino acids. So they're kind of more accessible and faster digest, like the digestion or building back to the muscles is faster. So basically these proteins are necessary for building the digestive enzymes, transport proteins, structural and immune systems. So it's all stuff that is necessary for our living. So I wouldn't neglect that. And so we all know that only animal protein actually contains all essential amino acids. There's a debate if it's 8 of them or 9 of them, but no matter what, only animal protein is complete. But vegetarians can find the sources. They just need to combine different plant protein sources, because they need to basically find the balance on all of those amino acids. definitely the protein will give us more energy and more sustainable energy during the day, and also the balances blood sugar and helps, to regulate it. Does that make sense? Any
Yeah.
questions, Lance, about the protein part?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when you said vegetable, when you said the broth, what
Mhm.
is broth? I'm not familiar with broth actually.
So pretty much broth is a type of soup. So
Okay.
if you just cook the meats or bones for prolonged amount of time, so this kind of like simmers. You can cook it with, of course, with the salt and spices, and some you can combine definitely the meats and vegetables.
Mm.
Um, Normally people would strain it, so it just stays like as a clear soup. But because it's cooked for the prolonged time, it actually will. What happens is that the proteins will basically, by the heat, naturally will fall apart into the smaller parts, into the peptides and maybe even amino acids that we actually don't really have to digest. So it actually is helping or increasing the digestibility for people, especially like if people have troubles to eat the meat, like it's heavy on the stomach, they don't have enough acids to digest the meat. So for those who need basically to get different protein source that it's mm, more available for us, like, and easier to digest, that would be advisable. So it's pretty much soup, but you can drink it if you want.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, there are in the store you can find the sources that, like it's already cooked, but I would again go for the vegetable broth.
Mm.
No, I'm not sorry. Not vegetable, organic, that's what I meant to say. Organic sources, or pasture raised, the meat that, it's not raised with antibiotics, because everything what was in that meat will be also in that broth.
Mm.
So, and especially the chemicals and such stuff will stay there, so we want to prevent that. So for the carbs, like I noticed that you actually eat lots of them, which is okay, I guess, for your body type, because it seems like your body digests it very well. But instead of maybe like all those dried fruits and crackers, I would add, some more complex carbs if you could, like maybe rice, potatoes, or quinoa, having salads from those, or like risotto type or something like that. And again, as I said, I'm not really sure why you're avoiding, more veggies. I know you had the salad a few days,
Okay.
but it's definitely better to eat the food than drink the food.
Mhm.
But your superfood choice is really good. So that one, yeah, definitely gives you, like good good stuff. So that's a good, way to get the water in your body, and good things as well.
Mhm.
You, yeah. So again, like for the fruits, I would prefer, like especially now in the summer, we have more fresh fruits available. Um, but especially if you eat the dry fruit, I would add more water,
Mm.
because it's really dense in the sugars. Everything is concentrated, and you don't have water, so your body needs to get the water. So if you don't drink enough water, you're basically losing water from other processes that are necessary. Um, and again, like, yes, if you need to have the protein bar on the go, I mean, from time to time, it's okay. You can basically, but again, they are in a category of ultra processed foods. So you can definitely, that's just my suggestion, go with some kind of healthier choice. You can pretty much either pack your whole meal. Sometimes, the chicken is fine, even if it's like cold, right? Like some of the salads you can have like a colder meats, so they are okay to eat on the go. And or you can even, maybe even the protein shake is better, like to invest basically money more into like good whey protein, not the soy protein but the whey protein.
Mhm.
Probably would be better. You can actually even mix your superfood with your protein and
Mm.
have like one shake. Like instead of those granola bars, I would say, like, I put like one picture over here. You can create your overnight oats. You can put fruits in it,
Mm.
maybe mix it with a little bit of yogurt, or like you can even mix it with the honey. You can sweeten it with honey or the apple juice or any other juices. Add seeds, nuts. If people like, and somebody likes cocoa or cocoa nibs, you can play with it. There are so many options, and you can. There are so many ways how to prepare them. You can cook them, or you can actually let them sit in the liquid or yogurt overnight, and you will have a good meal the
Mm.
next day.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I like, for those days, I know, like, if you buy a bigger package, you want to like just dive into it. You ate only the cashews. I would like to see maybe some other nuts. So I actually put one table, and I'm not gonna spend too much time over here, but there. So why the nuts and seeds are not made equal is basically these omega-6 and omega-3 ratios. So there are different types of fats or fatty acids, and some of them in higher proportions can be inflammatory, which are these omega-6. So we try to keep them in the balance, and we try to get the more omega-3s. Both of them are important for our lives. So if they're in a balance, it's perfect. But I would, again, like, maybe go more often with the seeds and maybe walnuts and maybe macadamia nuts, as like on a more often basis, instead of having like these other ones which are in a red.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, preference and the portion size matters. And again, like, you have that superfood, but for, as I said, like, don't drink or like eat it, eat your food. It's good. It's great actually for our health to add the probiotic foods. So something like a kefir yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, or even like drinks with the kefir and the kombucha are the probiotic drinks to support the healthy gut microbiota. Would be definitely beneficial because it counts as a food, not as a like drink. Um, and for I know a little bit, like, about Lance's health. What I would advise is actually eat at more regular intervals to support the adrenals. Because I read Lance's, it's just like a little wink wink right now. I read Lance's blood work, which was like about years old, 1 year old, but he had like a little tiny adrenal fatigue. So I would basically advise like to eat on a more regular basis, so you prevent those spikes on the blood sugar and like crashes during the day. I don't know how you feel. We didn't really talk about it, but definitely like more regular meal times and easing up to the better nutrition definitely helps, to support your body.
Question
And
for
also what
you.
I would, mhm,
Question for you about it. Okay, so about
mhm.
intervals. Now, how can I balance that with the intermittent fasting? I mean, so like, because currently it's kind of like, I wake up, go to the gym, I'm drinking water, but I'm not really, my first meal is usually not until like after the gym, maybe like more like lunchtime is my first meal. Would you say
Yes.
maybe lunchtime and then dinner time, kind of like 2 meals a day?
So that there are more questions to basically ask also on this kind of topic, because we would have to look in more detail as to what's going on in your body, and that's why I love the combination also with the nutrition response testing, that we can actually address the root cause and look like what's happening in the body, even if it doesn't show the symptoms.
Mm.
um, so if there's a true adrenal little bit of fatigue, I would advise to either in the morning before you go to gym get the protein shake if you don't want to eat, or amino acids. So there are a few companies that have like those 8 essential amino acids in the powder or tablet that you can basically either drink or get the tablets, because you wanna start that metabolism, and it's better to do it with either like some kind of protein or amino acids than the carbs, because you
Wow.
don't want to spike the sugar really quickly. You want to kind of try to keep it like more even during the day. But yeah, we can talk about it some other day.
Yeah, no, that's good. Good points. Okay. Hmm.
And what I would like to see is also to increase daily amount of water, because you ate a lot of like nuts, which is gonna pretty much dried fruits and dry fruits and dried food, and also the crackers. So they basically, as I mentioned, they strip your body from the necessary water because they need to be processed. Everything basically needs to run in the water. So increase a little bit of water, and maybe even add the sea salt. That usually helps, to balance other things into either your water, or you can just lick it. Yeah.
About the water, are you aware? It might be hard to kind of see this, but do you know how many ounces this water bottle would be? I guess I would have to look it up. I guess it's not
Yeah, so I think we estimated that one was like 40 ounces.
40
It's
ounces. So like
definitely,
two of these. Okay.
yeah, so probably two of these at least.
Oh wow. Okay, at least. Okay, good.
At least, it can be more, especially like if you exercise, if it's hot outside and you sweat. We many times don't realize that we're sweating, even like people are, let's say, at the pool, that you don't realize that you're still sweating. So we need to replenish the water.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let me touch base with that other. So this is pretty much for the suggestions and for tracking somebody's log.
Oh,
Lens, any other questions?
said the sea salt. So what's the best way for me to add sea salt? I mean, so basically that's just sprinkling some sea salt on my food. Is that
Yes, definitely. You can add more sea salt on your food. I wouldn't be, more cautious about it. Like, whatever you feel like your taste buds can, handle, and it's good, because it will basically also prevent you from cravings for later on. And or you can actually put it in your water, like a pinch of salt in your water. You might not even taste it. I usually just lick it out of my hand. You can basically take like a quarter of the teaspoon of the sea salt or Celtic salt or Himalayan salt, anything.
okay?
Is that okay?
Good. Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, some people lick it, some people just have to put it in the water. So whatever works.
Mm.
All right, so like let me quickly touch base with that hand portion tracking. So if the macros are not for you, there is an easy way how to track your food. So a serving of the protein would be your palm. So good thing about basically this method, that is actually adjusted to you. Is basically everybody's different. Everybody has different size of hands, but they are proportional to your body. So a serving of the protein is your palm. So basically, the when you measure it, the size of your inner palm without the fingers. But so if you, like, let's say you have a piece of chicken, this would be your portion, and this would be your thickness. So when you go sideways on your palm, the thickness of your palm would be size of your piece of meat. The vegetables, like we measure by the fist. That's one serving of the vegetable. If you're looking for the carbs, it should be the cup hand, and the fat is usually the thumb. And normally, each meal, again, it depends from the individual. We usually have 1 to 2 servings of each. At each meal, you should have the protein and vegetables, and basically the carbs and the fat. Or at most meals, it doesn't have to be. This is, I guess, we get different slide. A little dwarf somewhere moved there. So why to use these hand portions tracking over the macros is basically very easy and convenient, and your hands go with you everywhere, right? So you can track it at any time, at any point. And as I mentioned, they are proportional to your body. It's also easy to make adjustments based on your preferences. So if you want to lose weight, you can swap, something for something, or basically decrease the amounts by that, either fist or thumb or anything like that. Works with any type of diet or eating style, whether it's a paleo, keto, Mediterranean, or plant-based, and it's precise enough. For most people, it's not completely necessary to be peculiar about like measuring and weighing your food. Who likes that, right? So they are not super accurate, but they're accurate enough, and that's what really matters to track your food intake and reach your goals. So, and this method actually works for most of the people, even people with busy and messy and complex lives like me and Lens. And basically, when we compare it to the scales and tracking apps, it doesn't take that much time. Hand portion make it far easier and much faster to consistently gauge how much we're really eating, and keep the track of the composition goals. So, yep, hand portions can get you anywhere you go. And I'm not gonna go too much into this slide. You can do your homework if you like. I'll send you the slide deck. But pretty much, if you look at this example, which was the moderately active male, 210 pounds of weight, with a 17% body fat, what he would eat in this day basically corresponds approximately to the same what we would calculate from the hand portions. So they kind of agree to it. So if you look at the protein, like he over the day, basically over the course of the day, he ate like 7 palms of them. I can actually provide you with the numbers, like what it actually the palm means for the size of the man and what it means for the woman, because they are slightly different. I think the protein for men is about 4 ounces portion, and for women is 3 ounces. We have a little smaller hands, and it's perfectly enough for us to eat. So if you want to do your calculations, if you like the numbers, you can look at them. But again, if you look at the summaries, they are very much so close to each other, and having the difference is about out to 10 grams. It's completely normal. Your body will adjust. So you can use either calorie counting, macro counting, or even the hand portion as an experiment. Find what's good for you and have fun with it, because eating and nourishing our bodies shouldn't be a struggle. It should be actually nice and good experience. So with that, I actually will end this presentation, and I want to thank you for your attention. And I will actually show you another slide which contains my contact information, just in case you would like to reach me and ask some questions, or even in that barcode, there is basically linked to my calendar if you would like to book a free session and talk to me. What do you would like to accomplish with your next health goals, and if I could help. And I have one more slide that we want to announce with Lens that we're going to have another seminar in 2 weeks? I think 2 or 3 weeks.
Weeks, yeah.
Yes, on August 21st, it's going to be Wednesday again at 7:30 p.m. And we're going to talk about our gut health. I named this presentation Gut Feeling because we know that we should all listen to it, but we will basically touch base to it from the nutrition point of view, and we're going to talk about nurturing our gut for its optimal health and our optimal health.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
It's really good, especially because a lot of people, including myself, we want healthy stomachs. We want, and then a lot of us, including I know I do want that 6-pack, and everything. And I know that there's a lot of I know that gut health is plays a very important role in addition to the exercise and everything. But gut health plays an important role in achieving that 6-pack. So I'm really looking forward to our next session. And Zuzu, this has been amazing. Wow, you've given me so much notes, and I love how it's very practical, And so I'm going to be printing out the slides. I'm going to be taking it with me when I go to the grocery store so that I can remember all the different tips and notes and everything as I'm choosing my food choices, And wow, this has been very eye-opening for me, and I know that it's very eye-opening for all those who will watch, because like a lot of things that you said, it's just were totally new to me, about like the protein bars and about the margarine and just so many other things. And I love the palm, what do you call it? The hand portion tracking. I love that. Very easy way to, decide, on sizes and everything. So this has been really great. So thank you, Zuzu. I'm looking forward to the next session. This is excellent, excellent, excellent.
Thank you, Lance. And yeah, we definitely maybe we can just kind of create a cheat sheet, right? Like you just take those slides which only have those foods, recommended, and we can create that little cheat sheet that you can take to the grocery store.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I'll be following up with you, Zuzu, just to make, as I change my diet, and everything. I'll be following up, to get
Sounds
some
great.
advice. Yeah, this is a
Yeah,
good.
maybe we can do another sessions like what changed.
Exactly, exactly. I love it. I love it. Wow, it's been so great. So, guys, if you're watching, make sure that if you have any questions, put them in the chat box or in the comments section. Make sure you reach out to Zuzu. Zuzu, can you put up your contact information one more time, just in case people missed it? You definitely want to reach
Here
out
we
to
go.
Zuzu. Wow, this has been just amazing, amazing. Definitely reach out and ask her any question that you may have. So it's been really good, very good. All right, Zuzu, thank you so much. Have a great night. I'll see you in two
Thank
weeks.
you so much.